Welcome to the dark side. I'm JVL here with the mistress of despair, A.B. Stoddard of the Bulwark. A.B., it was an amazing weekend. Elise Stefanik, who continues to prosecute her case for the vice presidential slot, blissfully unaware that she looks like the shmoo, and so will not be Trump's vice presidential pick. She went on Meet the Press and was asked if she would pledge to certify the 2024 election, which used to be a thing that everybody assumed. It'd be like pledging to breathe. You know, will you pledge to breathe and to say that you love your mother in apple pie? Lee said, "Oh, we will see if this is a legal and valid election."
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Wish she was on TV another weekend saying shit like this, because Saturday was so hard. I had to get off Twitter and just contain my J6 rage. And what was so upsetting about what she did, and I'm trying not to pop a forehead vein here, yesterday, was her wormy, disgusting answer to another question about Trump's use of the
Nazi
Hitlerian
stuff.
language about poisoning the blood, right? Like, we have it here, we can serve it up later, but right, the way she worms around is so just greasy and weaselly. But the answer about the election was so enraging, because she said, if it's constitutional, because in 2020 JVL, Elise Stefanik, Harvard grad, wants you to know that she has her suckers believing that that election was not constitutional. And so she, in her campaign for VP and to be the biggest Trump suck up, is doing what he's doing, which is he's saying, this is the real insurrection. Joe Biden is a threat to democracy. And now she's telling us that Republicans that we know plain as day, as Liz Cheney is telling the public every day, are in violation of their oath to the Constitution, that they are following the Constitution and they are constitutional Republicans.
And she's not even playing the games with it, right? I mean, there's a certain amount of game playing that like Lindsey Graham does when he says, well, you know,
Yes.
People are very concerned and people don't trust these results. And so I have to take their concerns seriously. Like, we have to respect them, right? She's just like out and out being like, yeah, that's right. In Pennsylvania and many other states, those things were not constitutional. And that's why I voted to object. It's wild.
It's beyond belief. The problem is she's very effective, so she doesn't come off.
Is she?
Well, to me, what's frustrating is I think she has a smoother delivery than Lindsey Graham, who you can see in his eyes is in pain, or someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who just is like popping off and wants to sound like Don Jr., right? Or Matt Gaetz is putting on sort of there is a patina of serious, I don't know, there's just the polish that she has. And that's why I hope you're right and he won't pick a shmoo, or someone who looks like a shmoo. My concern is that, like J.D. Vance, when I watch her lying, I think she does it better and he does it better than most of the Trumpkins. And so they make me more crazy.
That's interesting. So to me, she's indistinguishable from Vivek. Like they're the same sort of like, you know, oh yeah, no, we know you and nobody likes you. You know, you're Tracy Flick. We're not into that here. I would say there was something genuinely helpful about that interview though. And it was not Kristen Welker's prosecution of the interview, because boy, Kristen Welker's going to have to get better at this fast. But the extent to which people have not gotten their head around the idea that no matter what the result of the next election is, irrespective of it, the institutional Republican response is going to be to delegitimize it. And like it, you know, this idea that like, well, if Biden could just win decisively, so that it doesn't matter, because everybody, like the response is then going to be, well, we have to go along with the Trump stuff on this again, because now he's done, right? He'll never be able to, but we can't make him angry because we want to inherit the party. And so we're right back to where we are with all of these people who are just going to say, don't worry, it'll be fine, right? Like he didn't overthrow democracy last time around. And so like, you know, we'll just go along with this, and he probably won't overthrow it this time around either.
But what I thought they were going to do I'm so glad that we're having this conversation on January 8th of 2024, because what I thought they were going to do was sort of go along with the big lie from the past,
Right.
but wait until they had something bullshit, something suitcase of ballots, something state legislator saw like a secret video and there was something back of a car. And then they were going to delegitimize the results after the fact. The idea that they will be forced by Trump now to say, we don't know if this can be a fair process. We can really back it and be patriotic Americans or a normal political party. We can't really do that because that's what he's going to demand of them. And that's probably a good thing that they're doing it in advance and not saving it, right, for after the votes come in.
I guess. I mean, we all have to start getting our head around the fact that that's where we're going to be living 10 months from now.
Absolutely.
And it's coming, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the result of the election is. If Trump isn't elected president, this is what we're going to get. And man, I hope all of our friends in the pro-democracy space are lawyering up and getting ready to litigate this. It's really bad. And, you know, dovetailing with this, we had word over the weekend that Donald Trump refused to sign a loyalty pledge in the state of Illinois. So I want to give a little background on this. So in the 1950s, at the height of the Red Scare, Illinois instituted a loyalty pledge for people running for president. It basically said, I'm not now and never have been a commie. It was explicitly anti-communist. And here's the quote. I will not directly or indirectly teach or advocate the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state or any unlawful change in the form of the governments thereof by force or any unlawful means. Now, the courts struck this down as a requirement pledge some time ago on free speech grounds, and so it's just been voluntary, and everybody signs it because it's like, yeah, I promise I won't try to overthrow the government. Great, you know, it's not a big ask. Trump has declined this time around. He signed it twice before. This time around, he's like, eh. And I don't know. Does nobody care? Because I'm forever being told, like, oh, don't worry. Sure, he said he wants to be a dictator, but that's just rhetoric, right? You don't be so. He's a clown. He's not he's not a real dictator. He's too bumbling to ever do anything bad. I'm like, I don't know. The guy keeps saying he wants to be a dictator and overthrow the government.
Just saying, but never, just seriously, but never literally, unless it's something that they want to believe he's promising literally.
Right.
Like the wall or whatever, right? So this is amazing. And he, as you noted, signed it in 2016 and 2020 and is just out there like, just can't make that promise anymore. It's hilarious that he would ever worry about signing anything because he never keeps his word anyway.
Yeah.
But the idea that he just would let this become a news story is, I don't know, JVL, so much like the torrent of things he said this weekend. It's along that theme where we don't know if he's trying to make us pass out and go to the emergency room, or if he's trying to injure himself politically for the general election campaign, or if he's trying to get his supporters really juiced. I don't know what the objective is when you stand there and talk about a school shooting and say, we have to move on, you know, or John McCain couldn't get his arm up that day, or when you see those bags of crap at the polling station, just make sure that they don't get in there and vote. I mean, he said so many things in the last couple of days that are so crazy, and
any
so
one of
hard
which would have ended like Bob Dole's entire political career.
Right. And just so hard for Speaker Mike Johnson to have to defend. But that's so it's just like this pledge. I don't know. Is it because he's a maniac and he can't control himself? These are the moments when we get a big fast pile of these stinkers. I'm always wondering, like, what is the objective, or
I
where
think I
does this
know.
come from?
I think I know. In every Trump campaign, there is a moment in which he makes a hard pivot to just kitchen table stuff, right? Where you get in the last in the last 2 weeks of both 2016 and 2020, he dropped most of the crazy Hillary, her emails, and in this one, the COVID conspiracy theory stuff, and pivoted straight into like jobs, economic growth, drilling for oil, immigration stuff. And whenever that happens, his poll numbers go up. This is a thing that happens, and people go, see, well, this is the forward-looking Trump, and Republicans get all excited, like, see, if we just leave all that other stuff behind, stop looking backwards and whatever. And so he's going to do that again. And we're going to have to live in a world where Trump doing the stuff he's been doing over the last 3 years, the insanity stuff, all of that is somehow going to be wiped away because for 5 minutes at the end of the campaign, he pretends to only care about the price of gas. And this is all done to bank goodwill with the Christian nationalist types, right? There is a contingent of Republican voters who want Trump to be a dictator. And this is a way of nodding and winking to them that they will absolutely hear, right? This is a dog whistle they will 100% hear. But that, everybody else in the electorate, nobody's going to remember this, right? So if you're the type of militia guy who really wants a Trump dictatorship, you will remember this Illinois thing. See, he said he wasn't. He knows what time it is. And everybody else just goes like, it's free. It's free for him to do.
And
because people are terrible and voters are idiots.
And you have to shit on John McCain. But I think also one of the things, just like you say, he's banking this for when he goes normal for a total of, 23 days, whatever. But don't you also feel that he's, as you have written down several times in the last week, is going to blow out the primaries in the early states and wrap up the nomination immediately? There will be mortifying campaign suspension speeches by his rivals, and then they'll have to endorse him. And that he's sort of in the catbird seat right now. So there is I feel like there's some sadistic, make Republicans have to defend the crazy shit that comes out of his mouth part of it, right? There's a sickness to him that really is satisfied, gets sort of a kick.
It's a kink.
About just being such a trash mouth and such a sadist.
Well,
right?
Yes, I think there's a fetishistic kink to it, but there's also this is when you join a street gang and they make you kill somebody on your initiations that you're a lawbreaker too, right? This is, in a way, he very shrewdly does understand the power dynamic, which is that if you get people to compromise early, then they can't leave you late.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you get them to compromise early, then leaving you late turns them into Liz Cheney. And nobody wants to be Liz Cheney, right? Now, nobody in the Republican side of the world, they look at Liz Cheney as a cautionary tale, not a profile in courage.
Right.
And by getting everybody to swallow all this stuff now and make their excuses for it, then if he tries to overturn the election again, they're bought in, right? All this is sunk cost. They're not going to jump offside then.
Yeah, too late.
They already, killed the guy to get their bandana. So this brings us to the question of the primaries. We are 1 week away today from Iowa. Amazing. The least surprising, least competitive, non-incumbent caucus
ever.
Certainly in my memory. I guess George W. Bush in 2000 was such an overwhelming favorite in Iowa that it wasn't, but he only won by 12. Trump is going to win by 30. So Trump's going to 2x or 3x the biggest Republican margin of victory ever. When do you think DeSantis and Haley drop out? Because I have some game theorizing on this, but I've talked about it with Tim and Sarah, and I haven't talked about it with you.
Yeah, I think that if you're DeSantis, you do not go to New Hampshire. So he licks his wounds for a couple days, has a few scotches, figures out what to say, takes all the phone calls about what, you should endorse Nikki, you should endorse Trump, you should do this, do that, and pulls himself together. But why would you ever go to New Hampshire? And if you're her, you have to go to New Hampshire. And why would you ever go to South Carolina? Those are my thoughts.
DeSantis is secretly hoping to finish third in Iowa, right? Because if he finishes second in Iowa,
he has to go
then
on.
Getting out is hard, right?
Yeah.
If you finish second in Iowa, to then pull the plug on Wednesday, it becomes that's so humiliating. It's easier in a way, like, hey, I'm just putting this thing out of its misery.
Yeah.
So, but you don't think there's a, hang around just as a, in case of emergency break glass option?
Okay. So I did see on the Twitters that at one of his events, a precinct captain reportedly says to him, don't you think you should hang? Don't you think you should go all the way to the convention no matter what happens? Because the other guy's going to go to jail. And DeSantis's response, was like, good and neutral. He said, yeah, I think we have a long runway, or something that, doesn't mean he's not quitting next week but is trying to keep his precinct captain happy, that type of thing.
Right.
So, I mean, I would love to believe, JVL, that in these back rooms with all the money flowing to stop Trump from donors who are gonna in a few weeks and months endorse Trump anyway, that they do have a convention plan, that there's an actual strategy, right? That there's potential surprises ahead, that there's a juggernaut. But we've been disappointed every single time. So I'm not actually going to bank on that happening. But rationally, should there be a backup plan in the Democratic Party if there's a health event that one Joseph Robinette Biden has? Yeah, they should think through that scenario. Should smart Republicans think through a scenario where even if Trump hasn't been convicted, we learn a whole bunch of damaging stuff out of the out of the special counsel trial from March to May or June or July, right? And then it becomes an untenable situation. Should they have a backup plan? Of course. Will they? No.
I guess
they're not allowed to.
So, I mean, typically the way these primaries work is that the candidate announces that they are suspending their campaigns. Right. So they don't, it is rare that a candidate just says, yep, I'm pulling the plug on the whole operation. It's always like, oh, I'm just pressing pause because we've come to a difficult moment. And, who knows, right? The fight continues for our values in America. And you guys all made us proud. And I'm sure that America heard our voice, even if this wasn't the result we wanted, right? This is your typical campaign suspension speech. In this case, I could see DeSantis trying to suspend in a way that like his name doesn't come off the ballots anywhere. So
How do you do
he's
that?
Still like a live issue.
He can lurk back?
Well, I don't know. Just go back to Tallahassee and hope that something bad happens to Trump. Right. But the problem is he's going to have to endorse Trump before that. And that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. Right. I mean, Nikki will endorse Trump the minute that she announces her pullout. Maybe not the minute. Maybe she'll wait a day. DeSantis, I can see trying to have it both ways and thinking that he can hold out, but he won't be able to.
Yeah, right. So how do you remain viable for the convention, for the secret plan?
I don't know.
That the
good news is there
will
is
never
no
let
plan.
you carry out anyway, right?
Yeah.
You have to have endorsed Trump by then.
Yeah.
And
And how about Nikki? How about Nikki? I don't think she gets to South Carolina. Here's why.
That's what I just said.
My theory of the case is that Trump wins by between 20 and 30 points in Iowa. This slingshots him even further into the lead in New Hampshire. He wins there by double digits. Mm. And having done that. All of the establishment pressure is consolidate the field, got to go down, got to get behind the nominee. Can't risk dominating the nominee for some 1 in a million chance. And so the pressure starts on her. Nevada, Trump's going to like be at 60% in Nevada.
Oh, right.
And she's got 4 weeks between New Hampshire and South Carolina. She's going to hang around, going to events every day in her home state for 4 days while people are telling her to get out, only so that she could lose by 40 points to Trump in her home state. I think she'd be crazy to do that.
If Nikki had privately assured me she was never going to endorse Trump, but she knew she was going to lose, I would understand her not wanting to be humiliated in her own state. What's so interesting is now that we're on this horizon, JVL, can we even picture her? She doesn't even want a woman-on-man fight against Trump. She doesn't want to be alone, literally fighting him. She wants to be veep. Like this is, so it's like now that we've rounded this corner and it's January 8th, like it's unthinkable, right? She doesn't want the humiliation, but she also wants to rush into his arms. She doesn't want to be in a protracted 4-week-long thing where people in the audience are like, keep fighting. He's a crook. You're a real Republican. Blop, blop, Ukraine. Where it's unthinkable now.
She's just a girl standing in front of a fascist asking him to pick her for vice president. That's all she's doing. Oh, Nikki. So that's the dark side this week. A.B., thank you. I'm so glad we were able to do this. I was going to say we should talk about my optimistic take about we're coming up on the high water mark of Trump. Do you have any thoughts? Do you want to dismantle because I was super optimistic in the triad today.
No,
this newsletter for you guys listening on YouTube. Come subscribe to it.
Everyone should read it. You were optimistic, but it's very reality-based. It's a very grounded argument. I think everyone should read it because going forward, and we're going to talk about it again, JVL. I mean, I'll say right now, I do buy into it. The truth is, I can remember 2 weeks before the midterm elections, a big establishment Republican person saying to me, you don't want to be Ron DeSantis. Whoever is ahead right now is dead. Like they're never going to make it, right? So just by dint of like the force of reality, we can't. Why is Donald Trump going to hold on to the position that he's in now, as you describe all of the different scenarios that are going to transpire in the months to come? And the argument that Halpern's making that you're citing is that Joe Biden has this one issue, which I wrote about today, where he can return to this all-important topic. It's very dramatic. It's galvanizing. He has the facts on his side. He can get media attention. He can unite his party around it. He can speak to swing voters. And Trump will never stop threatening democracy this year. And so Biden always will have a new news hook. So I'm buying what you're selling. And it made me feel better. And we'll come back to that. It's going to be a theme, kind of how does Biden get back into the news cycle? How does he command attention? And once Donald Trump is omnipresent in a way that he's not been, and Biden gets to bash back, will things change? And I think that argument is stronger than these peoples will just feel the good economy and finally give him credit. I think that could happen too, but I'm banking more on what you argue today.
From our lips to God's ears. A.B., thanks a lot. Everybody, we'll see you again next week on The Dark Side. Good luck, America.